I'm 101 years old, and there's one thing I wish someone had forced me to understand sooner. Not told me, not suggested. I mean really made me stop and see it. Because if they had, my life would have looked very different. You see, when you live as long as I have, you get a lot of time to think. Long mornings, quiet afternoons, nights where sleep doesn't come as easy as it used to. And in all that silence, things start to become clear in a way they never did before. Not big, dramatic things, small ones, the kind you don't notice when you're busy living your life. I didn't lose everything in one moment. There wasn't some tragedy that knocked me down overnight. No, it was slower than that. So slow, in fact, that I didn't even realize it was happening. Years went by, then decades, and all that time, I thought I was doing things right. I thought I was being responsible. I thought I was building something that would matter in the end. And that's the hardest part to admit at 101. Realizing you spent most of your life chasing something that didn't give back what it promised. I look around now, and I see people my son's age, my grandson's age, living the same way I did, saying the same things, making the same trade-offs. And I want to stop them. I really do. Because the truth is, the thing you think you can put off until later, that later doesn't wait for you. And by the time I finally saw it clearly, it was already too late to fix. Back when I was a young man, things felt a whole lot simpler than they do now. I grew up in a small town here in the United States, the kind of place where everybody knew your name and nobody locked their front doors. My father worked with his hands, long days, steady and quiet. He didn't talk much, but you didn't need him to. You understood what mattered just by watching him. Work hard, provide, don't complain. I carried that with me into my own life. Got myself a steady job in my early 20s, nothing fancy, but it paid the bills. Back then, that was enough. You didn't go chasing dreams. You chased stability. A paycheck you could count on, a roof that didn't leak. And not long after that, I met her. She had this way of smiling that made everything feel lighter. We didn't have much money, but we had plans. We got married young like a lot of folks did back then and started building a life together, piece by piece. Then came the kids, and that's when everything shifted for me. I remember holding my first child and thinking, all right, now it's not about me anymore. From that moment on, every decision I made had one purpose: to provide, to make sure they had more than I did growing up. So I worked, long hours, extra shifts, weekends sometimes. I told myself that was love, that showing up with a paycheck, keeping food on the table, paying for school clothes. That was what being a good husband and father meant. And on the surface, it looked like I was doing everything right. We had a home. The kids were safe. My wife kept things together in a way I probably never thanked her for enough. There were dinners, holidays, birthdays, all the things a normal life is supposed to have. But if I'm being honest, a lot of those moments feel like blurs now. Like I was there, but not really there. Always thinking about the next bill, the next shift, the next responsibility waiting for me in the morning. Back then, I believed that was just how life worked, and I never stopped to question it. It didn't happen all at once. There wasn't some loud moment where everything broke apart. No shouting, no slammed doors, no single day I can point to and say, that's when it all went wrong. It was quieter than that. I remember the evening, though, clear as anything. I had just retired. After all those years of waking up early, rushing out the door, carrying the weight of work on my shoulders, suddenly there was nothing. No schedule, no urgency, just time, too much of it. I was sitting in the living room, in a chair I'd barely used before, looking around at a house I'd spent my whole life paying for. It should have felt like an accomplishment, but it didn't. It felt unfamiliar, My wife was in the kitchen. We'd been married for decades by then, built a whole life together. But as I sat there, listening to the quiet clatter of dishes, I realized something that didn't sit right in my chest. I didn't really know her anymore, not in the way a man should know the person he's shared a life with. So I tried, in my own awkward way. I walked in, leaned against the counter, and asked her a simple question, something small. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I remember the feeling. The conversation didn't flow. It didn't feel natural. There was a pause, like we were two people trying to remember how to talk to each other. And that's when it hit me. Not all at once, but enough to shake me. I started thinking about my kids too, grown by then, lives of their own. I tried calling one of them a few days later. The conversation was polite, respectful, but short, like there wasn't much to say. And I couldn't understand it at first. I kept telling myself I did everything right. I worked, I provided, I gave them a good life. So why did it feel like I was standing outside of it now? For a while, I pushed the feeling away, told myself it was just part of getting older, that this is how things go. But the quiet has a way of telling the truth, and little by little, I started to see something I hadn't let myself see before. I had spent my whole life showing up physically, but somehow I had been missing from the parts that mattered most. After that, the quiet didn't go away. If anything, it got louder. Days started to stretch in a way they never had before. Mornings with no purpose, afternoons with nowhere to be. And in all that empty space, memories started coming back. Not the big ones, not the holidays or the milestones, the small ones, the ones I had rushed through. I'd sit there and remember my kids as little as they used to be. A voice calling Dad from another room, and me answering, not now. A game I said I'd play later. A conversation I cut short because I was tired. At the time, those moments didn't seem important, but now they were everything. My kids grew up, just like kids do, built their own lives, families of their own, and I can't blame them for the distance. I really can't. We talk, here and there, birthdays, holidays, short calls, but there's a space between us that never got filled. And that space didn't happen overnight. I built it, one missed moment at a time. My wife, she stayed. We shared the same house, the same routines. But there were things we never said to each other, feelings we never put into words. I thought she understood how I felt just because I was there, just because I worked, just because I stayed loyal. But love doesn't grow well in silence. I see that now. There were nights we sat in the same room, just a few feet apart, and said nothing, not because we were angry, but because we didn't know how to reach each other anymore. And that's a lonely kind of feeling, being close to someone for so many years and still feeling far away. I carried a lot of things inside me back then, stress, worry, even love, but I never learned how to show it. Never said the words I probably should have said 1,000 times. I thought there would always be time for that later. And the hardest part is, there's no way to go back and fix those quiet moments. No way to sit down with the younger version of myself and say, hey, this right here, this matters more than you think. So you live with it. Not loudly, not every second, but it's there, in the quiet. When you get to be my age, 101, you start to see your life a little differently. Not as a list of accomplishments or years worked, but as moments. Moments you held on to, and moments you let slip right through your fingers. And I'll tell you the truth. The things I spent most of my life worrying about, they don't mean much to me now. The extra hours, the stress, the chasing after just a little more, so I could fall secure, so I could feel like I'd done enough. None of that is what stays with you. What stays is people. Or more accurately, the time you gave them, and the time you didn't. I used to think Love was understood. That if you showed up every day, worked hard, stayed loyal, that was enough. That the people around you just knew how you felt. But they don't. Not always. Love isn't something you store away quietly and expect others to feel. It's something you have to show, say, live in small, ordinary moments. I didn't understand that back then. I thought there would always be another evening, another weekend, another chance to sit down, to listen, to really be there. But life doesn't work like that. It moves forward, whether you're paying attention or not. And one day, you look back and realize how many chances you let pass you by because you thought they weren't urgent. That's the word I keep coming back to. Urgent. I treated work like it was urgent, bills like they were urgent, responsibilities like they couldn't wait. But the truth is, the people in your life, they are the most urgent thing you have. And I learned that far too late. I was there for my family, but I wasn't present. And there's a difference, a big one. If you've listened this far, I want to talk to you for a minute. Not as an old man telling you what to do, but as someone who's already walked a very long road. Don't wait. Whatever it is you're putting off, don't. Don't wait to call your parents. Don't wait to sit down with your kids and really listen to them. Don't wait to tell your husband or your wife how you feel, even if it feels awkward, even if you're not used to saying those kinds of things. Because I'll tell you something I learned the hard way. Time doesn't slow down when it matters most. It speeds up. Those little moments you think you can come back to later, the ones that don't feel important right now, one day, they're the only ones you'll wish you had more of. Sit at the table a little longer. Ask one more question. Stay in the room instead of walking away. Put down whatever is pulling your attention and just be there, fully there. Because that's what people remember. Not what you gave them, but how you made them feel when you were with them. I had a long life, longer than most, and I'm grateful for that. But if I could go back, just for a day, I wouldn't change the big things. I'd change the small ones, the quiet ones, the moments I thought I had forever. So don't make the same mistake I did. Don't spend your life preparing for tomorrow and miss the people who are here today. Because one day you'll wake up like I did and realize what mattered most was right in front of you all along.